When you hear the name Seagal, you probably think of one thing: bone-crunching, 90s Hollywood action. The brand was built on Aikido, broken wrists, and a whole lot of tough guy attitude. But what if the next chapter of the Seagal legacy isn't being written on a movie set, but forged inside a WWE ring? This is the story of how Steven Seagal's daughter, Arissa LeBrock, has been quietly grinding to become a professional wrestler. We know about the devastating injury that almost ended her dream, the massive shadow cast by her famous parents, and the incredible comeback journey she's been on. The question is, after all that, what happens if she finally arrives on the biggest stage of them all? This isn't just another story about a celebrity's kid playing wrestler. It's about how a shattered dream could lead to a game-changing debut that puts the entire industry on notice. So, what happens when Hollywood royalty meets the gritty world of pro wrestling? We've seen actors step into the ring before, but never quite like this. A dynasty built on blockbuster action now has an heir, and her potential arrival in WWE has the wrestling world buzzing. What if she showed up and took out a dominant champion on night one? It would split the WWE universe in two and kickstart a massive debate. Would this be the birth of a legitimate new superstar, or just a Hollywood publicity stunt that disrespects the business? To really get the weight on Arissa LeBrock's shoulders, you have to rewind to the late 80s. Her father, Steven Seagal, wasn't just another action star. He was a force of nature. As a legitimate 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, the violence he brought to the screen had a terrifying air of authenticity. He wasn't just playing a character. You felt like you were watching the real deal. His brand of martial arts wasn't about flashy kicks. It was about brutal surgical efficiency that made him an icon. Her mother is Kelly LeBrock, an icon in her own right. A supermodel and the star of 80s classics, she was the definition of Hollywood glamour and style. Arissa was born from the collision of these two worlds, the art of brutal combat and the art of polished performance. On paper, that combination sounds tailor-made for sports entertainment. Growing up, she lived in that duality, modeling professionally, and even starring in the reality show Growing Up Supermodel. But underneath it all, a different fire was starting to burn, one that connected to her father's world, but in a way that would be entirely her own. Arissa began seriously training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This wasn't some celebrity hobby. She became a dedicated and fierce competitor, building a foundation of legitimate combat skill, not for a movie, but for herself. That unique mix of marketability, charisma, and legit toughness put her on a direct collision course with professional wrestling. In December 2019, the wrestling world lit up with an unexpected headline. Arissa LeBrock was at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando for a multi-day tryout. For any aspiring wrestler, that's the golden ticket. The PC is a state-of-the-art dream factory, but it's also a meat grinder, designed to push athletes past their breaking point. Her name alone made her the talk of the tryout. The story was just too perfect. The action hero's daughter wants to be a WWE superstar. But in the wrestling business, a world that prides itself on paying your dues, a famous last name can be a target on your back. This was her chance to prove she was more than just a name. And then, nothing. Shortly after the tryout, Arissa suffered a serious injury that put her wrestling dreams on ice indefinitely. The trail went cold. In the fast-moving world of WWE, Arissa LeBrock became a piece of trivia, a what-if story that faded away. For most people, the dream was over before it even began. But a dream deferred isn't always a dream denied. After falling into what she described as the darkest, worst place in my life, Arissa got a phone call that changed everything. That call came from Dustin Rhodes, a WWE legend and one of the most respected figures in the entire business. He knows a thing or two about wrestling in the shadow of a famous father and carving out your own identity. He saw her untapped potential and invited her to Austin, Texas to train at his Rhodes Wrestling Academy. This wasn't just an offer. It was a lifeline. Arissa packed her bags and dove headfirst into the craft. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy is a world away from the polished WWE Performance Center. It's an old-school, sweat-soaked gym where you earn respect. You aren't given it. Here, she wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter. She was just another student learning from a master. She was broken down and rebuilt from square one. She worked with a trainer to get her body back, determined not to let her injury define her. Dustin drilled her on the fundamentals, how to take bumps, run the ropes, and tell a story without saying a single word. She began to fuse her BJJ knowledge with pro wrestling and even started to quietly incorporate her father's art, Aikido, a style built on leverage and redirecting an opponent's momentum. After months of grueling work, she finally did it. In March 2023, she had her first official match at a Rhodes Wrestling Academy student showcase in front of a small local crowd. She wasn't a celebrity's kid anymore. She was a professional wrestler. She had earned it. She's paid her dues, she's overcome a nasty injury, and she's been mentored by a legend. With a background this legit, what do you think her ceiling in WWE would be? Let me know your thoughts down below. And let's get into what a blockbuster debut could actually look like. All right, let's do some fantasy booking for a minute. Picture this. It's Monday Night Raw. The dominant women's world champion, a powerhouse like Rhea Ripley, is in the ring after another beatdown. She grabs a mic, dripping with contempt for the lack of competition. Just as she boasts that no one is left to challenge her, the arena is plunged into darkness. The crowd murmurs, confused. This doesn't feel like a typical interruption. When the lights come back up, bathed in a cold blue glow, a figure is walking slowly to the ring. It's not a theatrical swagger, it's a fighter's walk, calm, efficient, and chillingly purposeful. The figure steps onto the apron, and the camera finally zooms in. It's Arissa LeBrock. The champ in the ring just scoffs, seeing a celebrity kid, and throws a wild, arrogant haymaker. This is where everything changes. Arissa doesn't duck or block. She moves with the punch, redirecting it with an almost casual motion. In one fluid movement, she controls the champion's arm, steps in close, and applies a signature Aikido wrist lock. The champion's face twists, not from a powerbomb, but from the shocking agony of a pressure point she never saw coming. A simple, brutal foot sweep sends the champ crashing to the mat. Arissa doesn't go for a wrestling submission. She just holds the joint lock, forcing an immediate, desperate tap-out right there in the middle of the ring. No bell rings. No match ever started. She just stands over her opponent, releases the hold, and stares into the camera with her father's cold intensity. The arena is dead silent. The commentators are speechless. She didn't come for a match. She came to send a message. A debut like that wouldn't just make waves. It would spark a firestorm. On one side, it's a massive blessing for WWE. Suddenly, the women's division has a new, credible threat whose fighting style is completely alien to everyone else on the roster. Her name alone brings mainstream media attention from outlets that don't normally cover wrestling. She's not just another superstar, she's a story. The daughter of a Hollywood action god, trained in legitimate martial arts, with a look you just can't teach. It's a promoter's dream. But here's the other side of that coin. The curse of legacy. To the locker room and the hardcore fans who worship the grind, she'd represent the very thing they resent, a celebrity getting a fast pass to the main event. No matter how hard she trained with Dustin Rhodes, no matter how real her BJJ skills are, the perception would be that she jumped the line because of her last name. Would her Aikido-based style be seen as innovative and exciting, or as a gimmick that makes a mockery of pro wrestling? Her arrival would instantly divide the fan base. You'd have to choose a side. Is she the entitled product of nepotism, or is she a true game-changer who earned her spot the hard way? That debate would rage online, in arenas, and probably behind the curtain, too. Arissa LeBrock's real-life journey is all about resilience. She faced rejection, overcame a career-threatening injury, and rebuilt herself from scratch under the wing of a legend. She has the look, the lineage, the legit combat background, and the pro training from one of the best in the business. She has already stepped into that ring on her own terms, proving she is a wrestler not because of her famous parents, but because of the competitor she chose to become. While that shocking main roster debut against a top champion hasn't happened yet, all the ingredients are there. Her potential is off the charts, and her story is tailor-made for the biggest stage. So the big question is still out there, and I'm throwing it to you. Should WWE pull the trigger on Arissa LeBrock? Is a character with this background the future of the women's division, or is she a high-profile risk they shouldn't take? Drop your fantasy booking in the comments. Tell me how you do it. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of pro wrestling.